everyone's entitled to their own opinions.
We accept all ships here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Rachel ship. I would with difficulty, but you have a safe space with us, so that I will not say any more. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
I'm just being David. It's fine. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't get into it, but I'm still struggling and navigating the murky, muddy. Bleh. But again, I'm all in one piece. So that's a win. Yeah. How are you doing?
Good. Things have definitely settled down for me, which feels incredible. It's a very stormy, like major thunderstorms happening here. So sorry to our listeners if there's a little bit of ASMR going on in the background, because even though I'm in the basement, there's like a window like very close to where we are. Yeah. So there might be some loud thunder on our end today. It just makes it.
I hope so.
It's dark.
Oh.
But that's okay. It's just this. So we are the Belladonna Watch Club. Come get cozy with us while we dig into iconic shows and movies that one of us has never seen before. The rules are somebody has seen it and adores it enough, or even just if they haven't seen it, we adore the concept. Who knows? Who knows what it could be? One of us is bringing something that we absolutely must watch. Mm-hmm. And as of right now, it's something that we've been like, you have to see this. Mm-hmm. So someone has fresh eyes. Somebody does not. As of now, we're leaving it open-ended there. So we are watching Gilmore Girls. We are on the second last episode of season 1. It is episode 20 called P.S. I love... ...
I love that. These titles are just like, they're throwing me and I love it. P.S. I love...
Yes. So in this episode, we have Max and Lorelai being all chit-chatty on the phone, thinking about having a date, moving forward from their talks. Then we have Lane and Dean, who have been paired up as study buddies, science partners. And Lane is attempting to shield Rory from that because at this point, Rory is still avoiding Dean like the plague. And
it's the first time we've seen Dean in a while.
Yes. Yeah.
It feels like a long time. So
yeah.
Comes out.
Rory shows up at Lane's and Dean is there. And then she finds out that Lorelai and Max have been talking again. And Rory just goes into like full teenager meltdown, ends up running away to the Gilmores, to Emily and Richard's house. And, drama ensues. So what did you think of this one?
I think I found this episode in some ways refreshing. Okay. I got some much needed good conversation at last. And I feel like this was an opportunity for a number of characters to actually say their piece or speak in a way that they were able to be understood at last, finally. And to be honest, I rather liked it, even though Rory was an absolute concrete, just Rory was awful in this episode. She could have been, but even despite her and despite some continued issues I have with Lorelai, I really liked this episode.
Good. This one gets under my skin because, Rory is such a jerk. She behaves exactly as I would expect a teenager to behave, but we haven't seen that teenage behavior from Rory much up to this point. So to me, it's more realistic of the regular dynamic, or what I knew as a dynamic between a mom and a daughter, in terms of teenagers and issues and, and shutting them out and that kind of stuff. And Emily triggers me a lot in this episode as well. So this episode's hard for me to watch. And I don't like all the fighting and Rory's inability to, her lack of self-awareness or her lack of ability. I mean, she's 16, sure. But She just drives me crazy in this episode.
Yeah.
She's like, what? It's fine. Like, whatever. And, and like, obviously it's not fine. Just say that you were uncomfortable. Like, don't pretend that it's fine when like, obviously it's not. So it just bugs me. This episode bugs me.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine that. And I can definitely see that. Somehow, I don't know, somehow just this week I was immune.
Good. I was not, and I had to watch it 3 times. So not fun for me. And it got harder each time I watched it. Because on one hand, it's like fear and anxiety about having teenage daughters. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, some things hit just like really close to home for me that were just annoying. And I was like, I don't like this episode. I watch TV to get away from my life. Escapism, please. Oh, all right. So things I Googled this episode.
Let's go.
We've got Emma Goldman, Patton, Up with People, Goofus and Gallant, and Mr. Cosell. That's what I Googled.
I think I only remembered like 3 of those. Interesting. Okay. I'm excited.
If we like this segment, listeners, let us know, viewers, listeners, because it does take up a little bit of time in our discussions. So if we are less fond of this and we want more like a more concise episode just about the episode itself, let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah. We've been playing around a little bit with how often we deviate or length of things. And sometimes we record for 4 hours. We're not going to let that happen again.
No. So moving right along.
Yes.
I do have an anecdote to add before we get into this. So in the spirit of trying to save time and working smarter, not harder, I tried to use AI to get an episode synopsis, like a scene by scene summary, so that I could just have that ready and have to take fewer notes. And the notes that I would be taking would just be about my thoughts and what I felt about it, rather than, and then here we are, and then this is what they say. It did not go well. It did not go well. At first, I was like, this is a different episode. Because I plugged in exactly which episode, which season, and I asked for like a scene by scene summary. And then it's like, oh, that's weird. That's not that episode. I think it was the season or the season finale. I think it was pulling from the next episode. I was like, okay, that's weird. And then I tried it again. And I tried like tweaking my wording every time, just be like, what's going on? And then I realized that it was just making stuff up at this point. It was getting so far off the rails into like storylines that have never happened. Like Lane professes her love to Dean and Rory is upset and like just all of this just like not in the series at all. And I was like, what is happening here? And then it's like, maybe it's pulling from like fan fiction and stuff too, because it's just like, everywhere. But I was specifying what episode. Like it went very rogue. We had some interesting storylines happening here. So that didn't work. I really wanted to. And I even took transcripts from a website and I like plugged them in, and that didn't work either. So I'm just going to have to keep doing what I'm doing. I tried to save myself a little bit of effort and time. It was not good. All right. So we start at Luke's diner, and poor wee Rory is so tired. She is just like fully yawning. Like we have all been there. We know, like we could feel her tired in our bones. Lorelai is telling this inane story about a magician, and Rory's just like yawning through it. And Lorelai's, okay, we're done with the story. Let's play 1, 2, 3. And Rory just like perks right up. And they played this ridiculous, amazing game where you have to pick a future husband. So out of the people who walk by, so you could pick number 1, you could pick number 2, and if you don't pick either of those, the third, that's it. C'est fini. That's who you pick. So the first one walks by, very old man. And Lorelai says, no, I'm not Anna Nicole Smith. And then a younger man walks by, significantly younger man on a skateboard. And then Lorelai says, no, I'm not Mary Kay Letourneau. Do you know who that is?
I know that name, but I don't know why.
Because it was an extremely sensational news story in like 1998, I think. So it would have been like on the peripheral of like our parents watching the news kind of thing. It was a school teacher down in the States who had an inappropriate relationship with a very young student, like 12, 13 years old. And it was a female teacher. Yeah, Mary Kay Letourneau had this, anyway, conviction, prison, yada, yada, yada.
Good.
So that was like a big sensational thing. So this like teenager comes by and Lorelai's like, I'm not Mary Kay Letourneau.
Lorelai.
Right? I'm like, that is an very inappropriate comment. I think there are 3 really big news segments that I remember from the 90s, and that was one of them. So like Princess Diana, O.J. Simpson, and Mary Kay Letourneau. Those are the ones. And I think that the Tanya Harding, the knees.
Yes.
And Monica Lewinsky. Okay, there's a punch.
I want to say about Lorelai, she's troublesome to me sometimes. Straight off the hop in this episode, she has a different kind of demeanor to the previous episode. She's a bit more relaxed, and I feel like she can actually speak her mind. She doesn't have to do any convincing of anybody. She's just having a nice time. And when she can actually do that, she's delightful.
She is.
She's really having a good time. She's not fighting with anybody. She's not trying to, like I said, she's not trying to convince anyone of anything. She's not upping the play. She can be pretty jarring, and she does do that a bit later. But right now, she's delightful. She's fun.
A lot of her behaviors that tick a lot of people off. It's a defense mechanism. Like it's her being uncomfortable. It's her armor, her humor, her wit, her being irritating is so that she doesn't have to be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we do get to see her just being a normal human, it's very nice.
It really is. The performance is great too, and just very relaxed. What a relief.
The last one, drum roll, the last man that Lorelai and Rory sees should have been Luke, because Luke comes to the table.
Yeah, Luke's number 3. Luke is number 3.
Is number 3. But to them, he's just part of the furniture. He's not part of the game. So we know that Luke is number 3. And the writers know that Luke is number 3. Mm-hmm. But the Gilmore Girls do not. Better still, through the door comes Kirk.
Yeah.
And Rory goes, Daddy. So funny.
I love the introduction of him coming in. Like the lead up is so great because it's like, ooh, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Luke comes to the table and he's like, what the hell is this game? What are you doing? Typical Luke, right? But he gets so easily wrapped up and involved in their game that he's like leaning down, looking out the window, and he goes, wait, why am I looking? Laugh out loud. So cute.
Somebody's partner is like, what are you watching? Like, what is this? And then they like sit down, but they're like in the kitchen or something. And, and then they get closer and then they're like, eat popcorn, like on the couch, like super invested. Like, are we watching The Bachelorette tonight? Like,
yes, that's exactly that.
Luke would be that guy too. He'd be like, what is this garbage that you're watching? And then would just be so into it. So then it's Rory's turn for the game. After, they tease Kirk for a bit. Kirk doesn't know what's going on. He has this thing about like a kick me sign that they put on his back like last week. And then he leaves.
Whatever his business was at Luke's, he forgets about it completely because he turns around and leaves again. He doesn't even get any coffee. So I don't know what he was in there for.
I'd be like, what? Why are you talking about me? Why did I like come in and you're looking at me and giggling? I am uncomfortable.
Take my business elsewhere.
Ouch. I'm going to Teriyaki Joe's. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so it's Rory's turn. And the first boy to walk past is Dean.
Mushroom cut Joe.
Mushroom cut teriyaki Joe.
Who, as I said, we haven't seen him for a while, or at least it feels like we haven't seen him for a very long while. For us,
not
it's
actually
been a few
seen
weeks,
him.
I suppose,
yeah, like they've talked about him a lot, but yeah, we haven't actually seen what he's been up to. We've known that he's been maybe working or maybe, over there or whatever, but yeah, no, we haven't seen him. That obviously kind of puts a damper on the game.
Before the end of this scene, we get a glimpse of someone else who works at the diner, which it's an Asian man with glasses. That's all I was able to write down. Asian man with glasses. Because I just think like, okay, sometimes Luke is like off doing who knows what. Later on, he's having a full-on fashion show in the middle of the shop floor. Like, who else works here? But apparently some very friendly looking dude with glasses works behind the counter.
We do get some staff with names later on.
Oh, so good.
Something to look forward to. It cuts to Lorelai at work, the phone rings. Michelle picks it up, and something that I noticed at the beginning of this episode, it was my turn to pick up on recurring themes. People throwing things at the Gilmore Girls. So Michelle picks up the phone. It's Max. He wants to talk to Lorelai, and he's like, "She's busy. Can I help you with something?" He's like, "No. I need to talk to Lorelai." And Michelle's like, "Is it business or personnel?" And I'm just gonna do Michelle voice every time.
Every time, please.
And then he says personal, and Michelle just with the most laissez-faire, just throws the phone at her. He pushes it over her shoulder above her head.
Drops it on her.
Yeah.
It's my only note for this whole scene is Michelle drops the phone on her. That's it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Max and Lorelai are having this conversation where this bugs me so much because Max is in the teacher's lounge. Okay, buddy, you have a cell phone. You do not need to be around all your colleagues. What are you doing? If you're so uncomfortable that you're literally making your body small when you're on the phone, go to your car, go outside, anywhere else but the teacher's lounge, because you're making me very uncomfortable, sir. I don't like watching you like this. They're talking, they're flirting, and then Max decides, that I think it's time to have an actual date. So they make plans to have dinner, and Lorelai agrees. And they're thinking about the progression of their relationship. And so here they highlight the fact that they've been having nice phone calls for a couple of weeks now, or a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna keep that time frame in mind as we go through this episode, because it comes up a lot, the time frame. So we then cut to the sidewalk in Stars Hollow toward the center of town, where once again something gets dropped on a Gilmore. Lane comes out of Dosey's and drops a bag of chips right in front of her face onto her book. I'm like, why are people choosing violence with these ladies today? But this is because Rory will not go in the market. And Lane, without being explicitly asked, remarked that Dean was not in there. And it was Wednesday afternoon. He's not in there. And she's like, Rory, you can write it down on that little piece of paper that you're hiding from me about Dean's whereabouts. She's like, what are you talking about? Are you sure he wasn't in there? I'm like, yes. And I asked. He doesn't work on Wednesdays. It's like, okay, good. She pulls out her little note, a tiny square of paper.
I wrote that Rory is on high defenses already. She's not accepting any accusations that she might be curious or worried or upset or that she's, or that she actually is avoiding anything. She's putting up a front. Meanwhile, she's reading Ulysses, James Joyce.
Okay.
And it's just a very brief, quick thing. And again, I'm not a literature person, but Ulysses, I do know as sort of like a modernish version of Odysseus, the tale of Odysseus, full-on modern retelling. And Ulysses is another, in typical Rory fashion, another sort of famously difficult book to get through. It's quite dense, and it's got a stream of consciousness type of style to it. It's full of humor. It's full of everyday type adventure. He doesn't go on some big epic journey around the world. It's just one central character and his sort of daily type adventure, but very dense. Actually, I did find a little bit because I wanted to be able to condense this on ulyssesguide.com.
Perfect. Good website name.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Point.
James Joyce's Ulysses celebrates the strength of spirit required to endure the trials of everyday life, exploring the patterns of human thought while also fostering an appreciation for differences between people. I feel like if that's what Rory is currently reading, I feel like she's probably read half of it and hasn't finished it yet, because the mode that she's in is just no, I'm fine. I've got my personal strength, my strong personality, and I'm courageous and brave, and I don't need to be protected. It's me, the strength of human strength, ignoring differences of humanity and human personality. She hasn't finished it yet. Yeah.
She's cherry picking the lessons in the book, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. They jot down that Dean does not work on Wednesdays. And she's already being avoidant. She's already she's still in denial that anything is wrong or that she's letting her breakup have any impact on her whatsoever. And
denying. I think that's the word I was looking for.
And she's in denial.
Denying. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's acting as though she's not bothered when she clearly is. But the Gilmore women don't value vulnerability, and they are completely shy away from vulnerability of any kind. So Rory is still sticking with her, I don't want to be one of those girls that falls apart after a breakup just because they don't have a boyfriend or whatever. When it's my dude, you can be not okay. Yeah. It's okay to not be okay. Yeah.
Especially in front of your best friend.
Right? Literally everybody else in the world, your best friend should be able to know how you're feeling. And she does know how you're feeling. Don't lie to her face. It's just insulting Lane at this point.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And I don't like it. Because Lane is better than that. Lane deserves better than that. Lorelai is also walking through town and bumps into Luke coming out of a shop with a bag. And the shop is something like Cat World. She's like, what did you get in there, Luke? He's like, what? Nothing. No, nothing. He bought some pot holders with cats on them for Rachel's birthday.
With sound effects.
With sound effects. Good point. They're awful. And I don't she doesn't even seem to like cats. And it's just of all the stores to go to, why did you go there? And when he comes out of the store and bumps into Lorelai, he's breathing heavily. He's so worked up about the fact that he has to buy this gift and he knows it's bad. And Lorelai is you cannot give her this. He's I know, but I don't know what to do. And he lists off all of these things that he'd thought about getting her or could possibly get her. And he's just I don't know. And he gets very upset about the whole concept of birthday presents and having to demonstrate his affection through a physical object at a 1 day a year thing. And
I don't know if it was a throwaway line. I don't know if it was a line that they deliberately put in there, but he even says Rachel doesn't really like birthdays.
Yeah, she said she hates birthdays.
Yeah. So then don't do a birthday for her. You don't have to. I don't know if this is just a TV thing or a Connecticut thing or a Gilmore Girls thing, but you're allowed to not get birthday presents.
Especially if the other person doesn't want it. Sit down with them, especially because Luke, when it's less high stakes as something with Lorelai, maybe just everything relationship adjacent, he just panics. I think that's a bit of what's happening here, because if Rachel hates birthdays, I think she would be very open to okay, so instead of a gift, why don't we go do something? Rachel is a let's go do something kind of gal. Yeah. And so I think, if he had just talked to her instead of panic shopped at the cat store, then I think it would have been a lot better. Yeah. And so when she's when he says she hates birthdays, and Lorelai's not as much as she's going to hate these pot holders. And he's I know, but I don't know what to do. And then we have this clip when Lorelai suggests that he goes to the mall.
I hate malls.
Ladies and gentlemen, rant number 2.
They underpay employees and overprice merchandise. They contribute to urban sprawl. They encourage materialism. And the parking's a horror. You drive in, you pay $1. And even if you're only there for 5.
Okay, Emma Goldman, I'll tell you what. I'll go for you.
He was saying it the way that he was trying to spit it out. It's he already had no breath. It's he forgot to take a breath at the beginning of his sentence. He's forcing it out of his mouth, and his mouth is so small the way he's talking. It was ridiculous. But that led me to Google Emma Goldman, who was an anarchist, anti-capitalist activist who advocated for free speech, military reform, women's rights, sexual freedom, prison reform, and education. We stan Emma Goldman. Oh my gosh. Late 1800s, early 1900s, queen.
Ooh, I was going to ask about her era. Yeah.
Yes.
Late 1800s.
So she was largely unknown, or obscure at least, in general history up until the feminist revival in the 1970s. And then she became sort of an icon for that movement. Yeah. Right? Emma Goldman.
I'd like Emma Goldman t-shirts, please.
Yes.
No,
oh my
not
gosh.
T-shirts.
No, capitalism.
I've been
Me
so
too.
brainwashed.
Art
Art.
on not social media, because I feel like that is like woven into capitalism also.
We'll just sing. We'll sing her name.
Lovely. Yeah. And
Emma
like if someone wants to
Goldman.
just like paint a mural somewhere that like the whole world gets to enjoy, then you can send us a picture. And that would be great. We're not asking a lot. We'll paint a mural. I had a lot of fun reading about her, actually. She is a total badass.
I love it.
Yes, me too. And so from here, Lorelai suggests she'll go to the mall. She'll do it. She has the day off. She loves shopping. And Luke is just like floored. He's like, "You'll do that for me?" And she's like, "Yeah, like it's not as big of a deal as you're making it seem, but like, yeah, I will get her something." And he gives her some ideas and his credit card, and off she goes. And he's very grateful and thankful. And she says, "I'll buy a bunch of stuff you can pick and we'll return whatever you don't want." So like, that's also really great because, you know, options, like it'll still be Luke's choice of the choices that are not crap.
Yeah. It'll just be curated.
Yes.
Although, right off the bat, this felt like a bad idea to me. It feels like Lorelai is walking straight into a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I
because
think
then she'd be like, "Lorelai bought this, you didn't buy this, and you were talking to Lorelai about me, and you couldn't even think of what to get me, and you had to go to Lorelai." Like, yeah.
I think I pieced my thoughts together a bit better about it a little later, so it'll come up again, and yeah, we'll get to it.
And so we didn't touch on the fact that at one point Lane says she has a science partner. She has to work on her science project that evening. And so at this point we cut to evening at Kim's Antiques, and boy, does it start with a bang.
You here? Jeez.
Who are you? Why you call late? How you know late?
Well,
you date her?
No.
You try to?
No.
Then why are you here?
I...
Empty your pockets.
Okay, I'm gonna go now.
Dean? Wait.
Who's Dean?
I'm Dean.
How you know Dean?
We go to school together.
You do?
Well, yeah, we're science partners.
You don't talk.
Sorry.
You're science partners.
Yes, Mom, I invited him over to work.
Work?
On our science project.
Reproduction?
Spores, molds, and fungus.
Reproduction. Perfect line. Like, no, it's not about that in like here with you. Like, come on.
It's the tantalizing sensuality of spores, molds, and fungus.
I mean, the reproduction rate and the ability to just I get it. Sexy times. Mrs. Kim is hilarious. She comes out from behind this like screen, like room divider thing. That's like the little slap noise that you hear. It's just, she's so short and Nina's so tall. And like he opens the door and she comes out of nowhere. Terrifying woman. And so rightfully, Dean is uncomfortable and wants to leave, but then they're brought into the kitchen. And once again, Mrs. Kim continues being Mrs. Kim. Like, you sit here, do not move. I will be here. And like, you'll be in the exact same spot and I see everything. It's like, okay, mama.
Hilarious. But on my second watch through, I was seeing sort of past the humor and thinking like, wow, I think she's out of line. They're like asking to empty his pockets and almost attacking him with assumptions and words that he's just this whole, I mean, I guess it's been happening to him since he arrived. Right? Like nobody knows him. And we find out further later that like no one even really cared to get to know him and everyone has just shunned him basically. But she's so insulting and disrespectful to him. I get it's her house. It's her business. He's this guy who shows up out of nowhere. Sure. But I think she definitely does go over the line.
Oh, absolutely. And like she would have done that with any boy, not even that it was specifically Dean. So
yeah, that's probably
the whole town not getting to know him, I think, is irrelevant to any person walking through that door that is a teenage boy asking for Lane would have been subjected to the exact same level of like ridiculousness and scrutiny, like without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, but it's not personal, Dean. Everything else that's happening in the town is personal, but this one's not.
That's true. It's true. Yeah.
They go to sit down and Dean is like, "That's your mom?" Like, he's like, "Yep, that's my mom." And that's when he says, like, has she seen Patton? So I Googled Patton because I was like, what is that?
Yes.
That was a movie from 1970 in reference to a General Patton. That was a World War II general known for his ruthless drive to destroy the enemy. So that's who Mrs. Kim is being compared to, which arguably fits. The enemy is boys. So they're chit-chatting a little bit, and he says something about, like, yeah, okay, so she'll like me once she gets to know me or whatever, just because that's what people say. And she's like, no, she'll hate you forever. Like, that's not that's not it. And then it gets very awkward because they start to talk about Rory. Dean brings it up, and Lane is like, we are breaking our agreement to not talk about Rory. He's like, we don't have an agreement to not talk about Rory. She's like, it was unspoken. Like, if we have to work together, we cannot talk about Rory, which, like, good for you, girl. Like, she has Rory's back.
Yes. But Dean sounds like me in this moment because he says, it's really unspoken. Nobody spoke it. And I I feel like so far he's the one who sounds the most like me when it comes to literal speak and sort of, hey, I need clarity. I want things to be, as they are. Don't mix words or mince words, or just tell me the way it is. I want to know about things. And
yeah, it's funny because all of the like central characters, like as you've mentioned in many of our previous episodes, there's like a lot of intuition and assumptions and like observing things so that words actually being used to confirm or deny them.
Yes.
And I think that's done. They make Dean to be even more of an outsider that way because he needs to know everything. Yeah. And everybody else is so close. And it is like a weird small town thing where everybody just like has like a vibe. They have like these like telekinetic, like they just know each other, right? And then Dean comes in and he's like, I don't have this with you people and I need to know what's going on. Like, and then Rory comes in.
Yeah.
Imagine the punch to the gut, seeing your ex in your best friend's house. And like, sure, maybe books are out, they're sitting across from one another, but she doesn't give them a chance to explain. She doesn't give them a chance to anything. And she probably had forgotten that she had a science project. So then she wouldn't even think, oh, right, it's a science project. I'd be like, are they friends? Are they dating? Like, why? Like, my head would immediately have just gone to like worst case scenario. That would suck. But then she's such a jerk about it.
Exactly. She does the typical TV thing about it and races off,
storms
does
off.
Not stand around for anything, does not even wait to like have it cleared up for her. No.
And Lane tries to explain, like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but, I didn't want you to be upset. And Rory goes, you didn't tell me. Life goes on. Okay, but that's like the equivalent of, like, again, the TV version of, like, a woman being like, I'm fine when they're not fine. And, like, everybody knows they're not fine. Also, if you do that in real life, don't do that. Don't do that to your partner. Don't say you're fine when you're not fine. And so, yeah, she like doesn't give Lane a chance to like really explain. She just storms off and is like, whatever, I don't care, whatever. And is just so frustrating. Poor Lane.
This is worse than the kind of girl whose life falls apart when her boyfriend dumps her. This is so much worse.
Yeah, because you're ostracizing your friends and you're lying to yourself. You're lying to them. You're being so unpleasant. She's putting up walls now. Because the people that she thought she could trust, she's saying that she can't, even though she's not letting them in. So they can't give her the opportunity to like have open communication if she's shutting it down before it even starts. So the following morning, I suppose it's the following morning, because Lorelai comes in, and even to this day, if anybody woke me up like this, I would be livid.
Yeah.
Lorelai Gilmore. Would you give it a rest? It is like, probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And she like jumps onto Rory's bed and is just like yammering away. And even if I wasn't in a terrible mood and going through something really major between my best friend and my ex-boyfriend and whatever, I would have been cranky.
Yeah. I had a whole like thread in my notes about Lorelai's language and her sort of approach to speech. I suppose, that so often her tone, I've got a good word here, is jocular.
Oh.
Yes, I think that seems to be the word that best describes the way she comes at. And she doesn't enter a conversation or enter a scene or enter a room and sort of suss out how can I best converse with this person. She sets the tone straight away, and it's always playful. It's jocular. It's she almost hammers at people, and she's funny. She's witty. It's very, she stays in control of the conversation, but it means she never actually gets to tell or pick up on how the other person really is feeling and how she can actually contribute to a conversation. She dominates in this kind of way. And yeah, she hammers at people.
Yeah.
She gets a tiny taste of it a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah, she thinks she's being charming. She thinks she's being playful. She thinks she's being fun. But what she's not doing is like reading the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's dominating and hammering.
Yes. And like sometimes that's appreciated. You're at a party, you're entertaining, you're being like, you want to have an outgoing personality and you want to be engaging in certain situations, but not when you're waking somebody up in the morning. Like nobody wants that. Even the most pleasant people don't want that. It's like, it's a jarring alarm clock. Like it's not fun. And, Rory's been through some stuff and it doesn't handle it well. And so Rory is being like a big crabby teenager and like telling her to go away. And this is what I expect from teenagers just in general. And this is a more realistic depiction of teenagers, in my opinion, than, what we've seen of Rory up until now and Paris and like a lot of the other teenagers, right? And so this to me is just like, you wake your kid up, she's cranky, she tells you to go away. Like that's what real people do,
Well, and if and when they do that, please do not accuse them of it in the way that Lorelai does. She just goes, "Oh, wow, Miss Krabby Pants. Hey, dude, that doesn't help. That doesn't help at all."
I do it to my husband like daily and he hates it. And I'm so sorry. That is just, I never used to do it. But I think the difference with my husband, and I'm trying to remember if Rory did this in this episode. I think she did. Like if you're crabby, just like admit it. Like if you are cranky. And so when, my husband comes in like in a huff and he knows we talk about it, we have open communication, but it's hard in the moments for me to remember some of these things because it gets on my nerves. So like with Rory, like a total huff, being super cranky. And I'd be like, oh no, are you okay? Did something happen? And he'd be like, why? Nothing's wrong. Are we sure? Are we sure about that? And it's one thing if you're like, I don't want to talk about it. That's different. But then I just get really like hard-headed and stubborn. And I'm like, no, you're grumpy. You're cranky. And you can't say no because I see it. I feel it. I'm like an empath. I feel every shift in the mood that happens in this house. You cannot come in and tell me that you're not cranky. That's what I'm like. Oh boy, he's really cranky. And then it's so much worse.
Yeah.
So much worse. And he's just like, leave me alone. I'm like, well, just stop lying. Like, and so that's where I'm working on it. But sometimes when he's just like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, okay, bud. It's like, that's who I am. Sorry. I do have the Lorelai in me on that front. I have no patience for the lack of self-awareness.
I think it works for us because I will elaborate on how I'm feeling. I'll think about it myself and go, I feel foul right now. And I will tell you all about it. So
see, that's it. That's all I need. Like, that's all I need. And I don't even need that much. I just need that acknowledgement. Like, oh yeah, I am really cranky. And you're still allowed to continue to be cranky. Just don't lie to me, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to me. And I think his thing is that it's like he doesn't want to be in the bad mood anymore. So it's like a wishful thinking thing or like an attempt to ignore it so he can move out of it. But I'm like, we can't ignore it. So no. Anywho, Lorelai suggests that Rory skips school, goes to the mall with her. She's trying to be like, cool bestie mom. And like, Rory skipping school, getting like behind on her homework, missing class, like is not something that's going to make her feel good.
Right. Do you know your daughter? Hello?
Right?
Terrible idea. You paying any attention right now? No.
Right? And it's like, obviously, your whole existence is bothering her today. The last thing that she wants is to spend more time with you.
Yes. Yes. Which is, so I put down here, just like a little note to remember this recurring thing that Lorelai has been accused of, but has also expressed moments of her fears of Rory distancing herself.
Yeah.
So Emily has already on multiple occasions and in the most terrible fashion accused and not just driven in that Lorelai is afraid that Rory is going to distance herself from her. And by doing this, you are furthering that divide. You are pushing her away by doing it in this way. It's so
and I guarantee every single parent goes through this once their kid hits the teenage years and they start to be like, no, I'm just going to like do my own thing, whatever. And then the more the parents try, the farther they push them away. And so it's like, you need to be there and be open. And I say this as a parent who does not have teenagers, because I will do this. I will be like, no, I need to keep them forever. And then I will probably do this. I don't think hopefully quite as bad. But like every parent, it will have like that like desperate like need to keep their kids from fully going away. And they come back, in their 20s once they've like gotten all of that out of their system. Sure. And so, yes, Rory's in a bad mood. Yes, Lorelai is being so annoying, not reading the room, not giving her the space that she needs. But Rory is being a brat. And it's not okay, especially considering they do have, their special relationship. I think it's even less okay because of that, because it's just like out of left field, like completely disarming for Lorelai. But again, this is more of what I expect from like normal teenagers. And so Lorelai says, like, does Up With People know about you? And I was like, what is that? And this is like a weird culty, like dance group, like performance group, where they take like really high energy people and they like go around and they do these like concerts and things to raise money for stuff. And it's like a teenage Up With People is an educational organization founded in 1965 intended to inspire young people to make a difference. After training, each group is sent on a tour of various communities to participate in service projects, learn about different cultures, and perform peppy musical stage show productions. They have been criticized for their right-wing politics and cult-like behavior. Yes.
It doesn't fly over here.
There was like a big uproar about their stuff like in the early 2000s. And then they kind of shifted gears a little bit. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of high energy type A's drinking the Kool-Aid and like doing shows for people about like being kind to one another.
I didn't even think past the sort of joke part of that question, because it made me just think of that joke where you're like, smells like up dog in here. And someone says, what's up, dog? And it's like, nothing much. What's up, dog? Like, that's what I thought it was.
What's up with you? And you're like, oh.
What's up with people?
Nope. Because when I watched it the first time, I didn't think much of it. When I watched it the second time, I was like, does Up With People know about, like, what is up with people? What is up with people? And then I just had to find out. So, yes, that's that. So Lorelai goes off on her shopping trip and returns with bags and bags and bags and bags and bags of things. She finds lots of great options for Rachel, and she's so excited about all the things she found on sale and all the different options. One of the things that she pulls out is a camera bag, which is stunning.
Great idea.
So practical. It's like, but she has a camera bag. And I was like, yeah, but it's nylon and it's falling apart. So this is like a great idea. And so like there were things right in front of him that he had noticed, but he didn't. He's just like so pragmatic that he was like, what? She doesn't need a new one. It's like, even if it's falling apart, like just ditch it. It'll be fine. Like,
this is where he and I relate. I'm terrible at buying gifts because I'm always like, oh, but I don't want to just give them something that they already have. or like it just takes up space in their house, and like where are they going to put it? And I don't have a brain for gift giving at all, and I wish I did. I want to learn from you because you're a brilliant gift giver.
I love gift giving, not just like for whatever. Like I love it when I know the thing to get. And it's really fun when I find the thing, and it makes me very, very happy. I haven't had the energy or capacity to do that in the last 4 years. Which actually makes me really sad, because then it turns gift giving into the chore that most people think it is, right? Because then it just turns into I'm getting them something because I have to, rather than it being like I know just a thing and they're going to love it. And then it shifted it a bit. So I'm hoping that sometime I'll be able to get back to where I was with gift giving before.
You will. Yeah, it'll get fun again. Yeah.
I just wanted to get fun again. That's all I want, because I love getting gifts for people. It doesn't need to be expensive. Like it's almost, if it's expensive, then I haven't really done it right, because I want it to be like niche, like thing, So Lorelai's pulling out all of these different things, like a book, because I talked about the book. The book was in the bag, and then, all of these things. And he's like, okay, so like, what's the rest of these bags then? And I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this. So Lorelai went shopping for Luke as well. And she bought him all these clothes that are not at all his style, that, are a little bit fancier than he would normally wear, a little bit swanky. And, she's like, well, they were super, super on sale, and goes through all of these extremely obnoxious dollar amounts or like percentage amounts off. And
I love that. I love that as a recurring joke. It just gets it gets way out of hand. She's just like, it's like 3,000% off, and it's 10 trillion% off every little instance. Genius. I love it.
I despised that. I hated it. Oh. And it really bugs me in this episode. It's one of the reasons I don't like this episode. That particular joke just made my skin crawl. It just bugs me. And so Luke is like looking at all this stuff, being like, "Wait, you don't like my clothes?" And he's like, "Can I have my credit card back? It looks tired."
I love that. Loved that. It's just a nice little moment. She's like waving it in front of his face, and he's like, it looks tired.
So what did you think of the whole Lorelai buying Luke all these clothes?
Well, I love seeing characters and people when they are in their element. And you can just see Lorelai is having a blast with it. That is her thing. She's so thrilled by it. The efforts, of course, like on the surface, if you sort of like draw a line from point 1 to point 2 to 3, are going towards Luke and Rachel together, and a kind gesture through blah, 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 and then a nice dinner date. But Lorelai can feel like she's doing good by helping Luke and helping his happiness. She can feel useful and needed, and like, I'm such a valuable person in your life, and I can help, and let me, involve myself in a meaningful, helpful way. Ultimately, this is not a good idea. It feels a little bit like I think on the surface it's nice, but it does feel a little bit later on when we get Luke fashion show.
Oh my god!
It feels like she's just sort of playing dress up with him. It feels like she is living her sort of not alter ego side, but it just feels like she's sort of living out a little fantasy. And yes, she maintains, okay, well, this is for Rachel, but actually Luke. Let's dress him up the way I'd love to see him. And she's so much entertaining her own, perhaps fantastical sort of romantic idea. And that is like, it makes me feel a bit funny in my stomach to see in a bad way.
Yeah. I really don't like this. I don't like that she did this at all, because it is a huge overstep. Because it's her. She's buying something for Rachel to benefit the relationship, as you said, but then she is inserting herself into it. It can't just be about them. It also needs to be about Lorelai, and the clothes for him have nothing to do with Rachel and her present. That becomes the afterthought. Then it's Lorelai being like, I did this for you. I got all these things for you. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And trying to do it like innocently enough because it was on sale and, whatever. And I'm your friend and I thought I was doing you a favor. But, as a person who is not in their relationship, she is putting herself where she does not belong in terms of like intimacy. And Rachel would be very, and obviously we see later, is uncomfortable. I would be too, even if it wasn't for the fashion show. I'd be like, why did this girl buy you all these clothes? Like, even though it's your own money, that means she's like thinking about you in these clothes. She's like looking at your size. It's intimate, it's personal, and it's a huge overstep and like violation of their relationship. Like it's disrespectful to Rachel and Luke.
It would be an entirely different story and still have the same good feelings of helping if he was like, I'm not prepared with an outfit to wear for a fancy dinner. You seem to have good style. Will you come along and help me? Because I want it to be a surprise and I hate shopping. Will you help me? Totally different scenario. She could still have fun with like dressing and try this on and try that. Totally different. But yeah, he didn't ask for it. She is creating a him, some version of him, and yeah, completely overstepping and inserting herself into their relationship. Yeah,
and it really, really bugs me because you know that like she has ulterior motives, even though she's not expressing them.
This
fully.
is it. Yeah. Now it's not just coming out in sort of flirtatious, teasing type words and joking tone. It's now coming out in actions that she's still denying.
Yes. So then we see Rory made it to school. She's at Chilton, but she is not paying attention at all. And her lack of attention is actually causing the others to notice and pay attention. It's annoying to me that the other girls, Madeline, Louise, and Paris, care at all. Like they make it seem like she's doing something so scandalous, but like she's just looking out the window. Relax. Like, okay, people are allowed to daydream. People are allowed to not be focused. And they're acting as though she's like passing notes and like writing all of these, like, you know, like what is she's just.
I think it's that she doesn't even have her book open.
Yeah.
Like
and she's just so.
I'm pretty sure there's nothing on her desk. Yeah.
She's not taking notes. She's not doing anything, which is obviously extremely out of character. And so people are noticing it because it's not Rory. They notice, Max notices, because that's whose class she's in right now. She's in Mr. Medina's class. He asks her to stay after class. Like, Max, would you just shut up for once in your life? Leave Rory out of it. Have we not learned to not talk about Rory, about your personal life? Have you learned nothing?
I think he starts this off very well, and it so quickly because his tongue drops all the time, and Lorelai comes into it somehow. He starts this off, and Rory latches onto his mistake word, your mother, and it gets completely derailed. And I hate when that happens in conversations because I think it's fully right that he would ask her how she's doing and point out to her that, hey, you are noticeably not paying attention in class. There is clearly something going on. Your behavior is very, very weird. I want to do this as quickly as possible. Like, can you spare a minute? Boom. Because again, she just denies it, and she doesn't acknowledge that if it's that noticeable that he's asking about it, maybe I'll try a little bit better. You know, she could have said anything like that. Instead, she jumps onto, how did you know I got dumped? How did you know that I'm doing a breakup? And it fully gets derailed. Like, that's not the point.
It would be jarring. It would be jarring to have a teacher know something about your personal life that you did not tell them.
Yes.
And so even before he says your mother, he says, I know you're going through a tough time right now, which was his first mistake. Because if he's on the outside as just a teacher, it would be, you seem off, is something going on.
Yes.
You know?
Which I think is what he intended to start with.
Absolutely.
Because he is who he is.
Yes. And, you know, he's concerned. That's okay, whatever. But also, like, he, I guess, does assume that they know. But like, once again, they have been talking on the phone for 2 weeks. You do not need to go and like make a royal decree to everybody you know that you are chatting with somebody.
No,
like,
exactly.
Max has this idea, and everybody has this idea that, oh, they've been talking for 2-3 weeks. Why didn't you tell me you were dating? Why didn't you tell your daughter that you were dating? Like, 2 weeks. Anything could happen in 2 weeks. Like, any number of things. 2 weeks is a blip 2 weeks is ridiculous that this is like what everybody is hinged on for the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Like I
Drives me
get that
bonkers.
Rory would be like, oh, what? How did you know about my breakup? That's awkward that you know about that. And I wish you didn't know about my personal life. But then what she clings to is my mom didn't tell me that you guys were talking on the phone. Like, that's not the point, Rory.
It's like, that's awfully rich coming from somebody who's presently not telling her mom jack.
Uh-huh.
So obviously, if you are not communicating with Lorelai, why in the heck would she be communicating with you? Because she's trying to give you your space and privacy-ish. But like, she's not going to come to you with her own personal things. Even if Rory or Lorelai was having a terrible time, she would not be telling Rory right now because Rory is not available for conversation.
Mm-hmm.
She is determined to be furious with everybody in this episode. And she does it.
Yes.
Yes. So she storms off. She's like on the verge of tears practically. And I think this was like the final straw for her because at this point she feels like everybody's keeping secrets from her. But it's like, you are not pleasant to talk to. No one's telling you anything. Like,
Exactly.
you are the problem here, not them. But, you know, she's 16 and hurting, so she's not seeing it that way. Mm-hmm. She feels betrayed by all of her people right now. And we get back to the diner, and Lorelai has forced Luke into the clothes, which do not suit him at all, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I hate it.
Like super tight, like black collarless, like but like button up, like very. Well, how would they have said it in the 2000s? Like metrosexual, like
yeah, metro. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do appreciate the guy sitting at the counter who's like, "Hey, Fabio."
Yeah,
totally.
It's not a great look for him at all. He's not wearing the cap. His hair doesn't look good. And Lorelai is like fussing over him in all these different ways, which reminds me very much of Emily in this scene.
Ooh.
Because of the way that Emily was like fussing over Richard and his tie and his napkin. And like, she's being her mother here.
Mm-hmm. I like that Luke is standing in the middle, standing out on the floor of the diner in front of like public and patrons and such in all these clothes and socks. Yeah, it doesn't even have shoes on.
It does make him look like way more of just like a child being dressed by his mom.
Yeah. No, my two notes for this scene were just Luke fashion show. I hate this. That's it.
Yes, it's very uncomfortable, and like we get that in Lorelai's head, it's perfectly innocent, but you are touching this man's belt. That is not innocent in any situation. Doesn't matter your intentions because you are touching a man's belt and you are like untucking his shirt from his pants. That is too personal. I have friends that I have known my entire life, you included, basically. And I would not begin to dress you or like adjust your clothes. That is not what friends do, even if you think you're just being a friend. I would say, you know what? That would look a lot better if you like untucked it a little bit. And I'd let you do it. But no, she just wanted to get her hands on his body. So she did it.
We've seen and heard so many times before, Luke and Lorelai have the teasing kind of conversation where she'll deliberately not respond to his objections or his like, okay, that's enough, because, you know, it torment him a little bit. It's fun. But now she's still like, she's not just sort of firing back with a jokey kind of tone. He is now physically uncomfortable and in a public space.
Yeah.
And it's just gone so far beyond. So the fact that she still can't, if she reads him or she's just ignoring any of his discomfort is really, really upsetting.
Yeah, she's treating him like she knows better than he does. And he needs to try on these clothes because he's going to look great regardless of whether he thinks he looks great or not. And regardless of whether he's comfortable in the clothes or not. And yeah, she like fully chases him into the back to like force these clothes on him when he says no repeatedly. He's like, I don't want to take them back.
And it's all in pursuit of her own joy and her own little game. And she's having a great time with it. It's like, he's not your Ken doll, you know? He's not.
That's it. And then Rachel comes in. And they both, at this moment, realize how inappropriate this actually is.
Yeah.
when they are confronted with his girlfriend. They're like, oh, yeah, oh, this is not what it looks like when she got, like, she has her hands on his waist and it's like adjusting his shirt and stuff. And she's like, it looks like you're dressing him. And they're like, okay, yeah, it is exactly what it looks like. And here, Rachel's like, let's pretend everything is fine and normal. Like, that is just crumbling. You see it all over her face. She's like, okay, this sucks. I don't like this. Understandably, Rachel is fully allowed and expected to be uncomfortable with this. Absolutely. And I don't think anybody would disagree, but if they do, they're wrong. They're incorrect. Or, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinions.
We accept all ships here. Yeah.
Yes.
Lorelai ship.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rachel ship. I would with difficulty, but you have a safe space with us. So that I will not say any more. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
I'm just being David. It's fine. Oh, it's wrong, but it's fine. So we see outside Lane waiting for Rory to get off the bus. And Lane is trying to apologize. She brought her coffee, and Rory is just being a monster to her friend. She's trying to explain. She's trying to say, I didn't want to hurt you. You know, I know that you've been so upset. And Rory is just like feeling so attacked, and she's so defensive and is just really awful to Lane. They're practically shouting at each other in the street, and it ends up with it being like, well, I don't need you to protect me. Well, fine. I'm not going to like push you out of the way if a bus is coming. And well, she's like, fine. And then they storm away from each other. And that's like probably their first like big fight ever.
I think up until that obviously sarcastic line of, I'll push you in front of a bus or whatever. Everything that Lane says, every one of Lane's lines is perfectly acceptable and perfectly explanatory. She's not being defensive. She's not being accusatory. She's just stating, this was my thinking. This is the planning that I did. This is how it went. But Rory, in her current state, makes it that nothing is going to be the right thing to do.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because Lane came at it perfectly, logically, reasonably. She came to like explain with just the facts, no emotion. She wasn't, you know, like, yeah. Rory,
and she considered both things. Like, okay, if I tell her, then it's bringing him up again. And I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to involve him in her life. If I don't tell her, So, she thought about it. She considered it.
Yeah. And Rory is just not ready. She's not in the headspace. She's just come from school where she's pissed off about somebody else not telling her something. And it's not all about Lane at this point. And Lane doesn't know that. But Rory is feeling like now everybody is just lying to her and babying her and trying to protect her by omitting information, which is making her feel even more fragile. Like she's doing all of this so that she doesn't have to be vulnerable, but then people are treating her as though she is vulnerable because she is. And that's infuriating for her because she doesn't want to be hurting. She wants to pretend like she's not, and she can't because the people around her are treating her like she's hurting.
Lane probably should have told her. But I do think it's a fair choice because like it's not like they've been partners for weeks. You know, it's a newish thing. And it's like, okay, well, we go to the same school, whatever. It's not like I'm hanging out with him. He's just my partner, my science partner. I think I would have and just been like, awkward thing. Dean's my science partner.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Was it my choice? The teacher made me do it. Like,
exactly.
Saying no, it's an assignment. I don't want to be doing it, but I have to. Yeah. And then I think I would have tried to find, like do it at school, like do it on lunch, like do it, like stay after school or something if you need to, but like do it somewhere where she'll never show up. Do it at the library at school, not your house. But in Lane's defense, she did tell her that she had a science partner and Roy forgot. Like she had warned her like not to come to the house basically. And Rory forgot. Yeah. And so they just end in this like, fine. Because at that point, Lane is like, I've had it with you just like not listening and not hearing me and not caring that I was trying to be a good friend and you're telling me I'm not being a good friend and you're upset with me when I did all of this to try to be the best friend I can be. I did this for you. And then so they end up just being like, fine, and then split. And Rory like pitches the coffee in the garbage can and storms away. And at the same moment, Lorelai is walking up the street behind her. And I have this clip.
Okay, you've been in this mood for a week now, and while I love the unexpected ups and downs of motherhood, I gotta say, I'm tired of Goofus and I'd like my gallant back.
You can't just say a normal sentence, right? Just, hey, let's talk. It's too dull for you.
Hey, let's talk.
Yes, Rory. Somebody said it.
Somebody said it.
Yep. At that point, we're all thinking it. We're like, she's upset. She's pissed off. Like, don't make it a joke. Just talk to her like a normal person. She does like the Goofus and Gallant thing, which I Googled. That was a comic strip where they had two characters, one named Goofus, one named Gallant. And Gallant always did the right thing. And Goofus always made the mistake and was like always doing the stupid thing. So I can't think of any examples now, but it would be like, you know, Gallant does the dishes. Goofus smashes them all on the floor. Like
silly Goofus.
Very, like, just stuff like that, where it was like the common sense good thing to do. And then the like horrible terror child thing to do. I love that Lorelai, like when Rory said that, does stop and does say, hey, what's wrong? Or whatever it is that she said.
Hey, let's talk.
Hey, let's talk. There it is. And that is, I think, going to be, that felt like me. Like just blunt and to the point. And we're going to talk now. This is happening.
And it's an invitation rather than a like, tell me stuff. It's just a, hey, let's open up the conversation. I'm not going to throw stupid jokes and references at you. Talk with words, talk with words.
Yeah. Then Rory confronts Lorelai about Max, still not in a very direct way. Like it takes her a few like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? So Rory is also not being direct like she is asking Lorelai. Like she gets there, but I think she wants to like frame it in a way that is like an aha, like a got you moment for Lorelai. Like she wants to use it as like a build up, which is just annoying. But then again, Lorelai launches into like a story. She's not talking normally. We just talked about this, Lorelai. I don't like this episode because she just had this. Like, what can't you just?
The only thing I like about this story is that it has a very clear point to it. And she races through it and you're just like, oh, why are you telling me a high school story? But she gets back to it quickly to explain her choice. I got it. Just wish she could have got there a little bit.
The story. Like she even starts it with like, well, I didn't tell you because I didn't want to be like blah, 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 this person.
I didn't want to pull a Nancy whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? Like just be straight. Because her explanation of it is like makes perfect sense. And the way that she like ties it in, very logical, but like lead with that. And if she doesn't get it, bring in the example. She just told you to talk to her like a normal person. And you couldn't do it for more than one sentence. One sentence. So that just bothered me so much. Like, you can't even keep it together, man. You both suck.
I am glad that by the end of this scene, Lorelai doesn't let Rory off the hook to be a surly, like she's being a surly and defensive teenager about it all. And I wrote in my notes here, just because you're struggling does not give you a free pass to be horrible to everybody. You can still do harm.
That's it. Because once they start talking about Max and stuff, she's like, well, there's no point for you to tell me anyway, because you're just going to break up again. Like she's just being hurtful and cruel. And at this point, it's personal. And she's just trying to be like rude. She's just trying to hurt Lorelai. And that's not okay. Like you can be hurting, but taking it out in such a personal way, like being grumpy with her is one thing, but making it about her and her character is another thing.
She very successfully, again, derails the point of this conversation, this dialogue back and forth, directing it away from what's up with Rory to being insulting. And it's about her mother. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're walking home, they're arguing. And as you said, Lorelai doesn't let her off the hook. She's like, hey, like, you could not talk to me like that. Absolutely not. I will not stand for this. She has to stop at Dosie's to pick up some stuff. And she's like, well, are you coming in? And this is where we see Rory's vulnerability like come back, because she's acting like such a big, tough guy, talking shit to her mom, and then still won't go in the store, because the whole reason for all of this is because she is upset about Dean. She's being awful because she's upset about Dean. And so she even sees, you see it in her eyes and her face, that even though she's so mad at Lorelai, or she's taking it out on Lorelai, she's like, are you coming in? She's like, well, is it Wednesday? Like, no. It's like, well, then no. And that's where you see it's like, well, yeah, right. And then Rory is remembering that, like, this is what this is actually about. And then she's like, I'll see you at home, and then storms off. Lorelai gets home. And she says, I got some silly string just in case things get really ugly, which made me laugh so hard, because one of the things that my therapist has told my husband and I, by the way, everybody should get therapy, even if you think you need it or you don't. Everybody just could fully benefit from like a solid session with a therapist, no matter what. So my husband and I, we have our therapy. And when it comes to fights, she said, why don't you get some fight hats? We're like, what? What are those? And it's like the silliest, goofiest hat you could possibly find. And you put them on. So when you're arguing, it just takes the whole tone down several notches. So it's less biting, it's less cruel, it's less intense when you're wearing a stupid hat. And you're trying to talk to somebody wearing a stupid hat, and you're not going to be as hurt because now it's like silly. And so it's easier to like be more vulnerable, because like when people are arguing about stuff, it all boils down to fear. Our fears, right? And you can't communicate your fears because the anger comes out on top instead in the ways that it's manifesting, because it's about the dishes, it's about the kids, it's about the laundry. But our fears are that, we are going to burn out. We're going to be overburdened. We're not being respected. Like those are like the underlying issues, right? And you can't really get to those if you're so angry about all the other things that are bubbling on the surface. But if you're wearing a stupid hat,
it's like it scrapes the surface thing off, and you can actually get to the stuff. But yeah.
And so the silly string was like fight hats and silly string.
I love that idea, and I love that line. I hate the line that comes before it, because she steps in the door and says, I'm back for round 2. Again, with her jocular, jokey tone. This could be 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour later. She has gone home. There is time in between. There's breathing room. You don't need, it's a terrible idea, meet the fight at the same point where you left it. There's time in between, if there's any amount of time in between, let that be cool down time. Maybe she is still angry, but you don't need to be still at that same level. She enters the house with the same energy from the fight. And like it's amusing. It's a funny little line, but I just hate that she does it. I'm back for round 2. So she comes in expecting the fight to continue. And I don't think that's going to help.
No, that's a good point. And, to me, I took it as she has calmed down. So she's able to access some humor, and she's trying to bring some levity to it in case she is still seething. But like, at what point in this episode has levity helped you, woman?
Exactly. Yeah. Can you not remember your daughter from the other morning where it didn't work then? Exactly. It's certainly not going to work now. Yeah.
That's it. And then she realizes that Rory is not home, and that panic starts to sink in. She's like freaking out. Cuts to Emily and Richard's house. And here we get some people who aren't really fighting. They're like, having a funny conversation, like a little bit of like just banter rather than
this banter. Yes.
Yeah. And they're on their way to like this benefit from the Horticultural Society benefit about this endangered plant. Emily is the president of the Horticultural Society.
Busy woman.
And that's the society, people, because we also find out that she's on another board for another benefit the next night. And Richard is just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Like, can we just stay home? Another benefit. And was it the same woman, Patty Salinger, that was mentioned in the last one with the antiquing? Or is this a different woman?
I don't know. I'm not sure the name.
Check this before, but he goes, I don't want to sit there and listen to Petty Salinger. She's a dipsomaniac. I suppose I could have added to things I Googled because I did not know what that was. It's a type of alcoholism where you're not like always drunk. Like you don't always have the need to drink, but when you start, you go. And so it's saying that she is a lush. She likes her booze. Richard is like, I don't want to spend my evenings at these stuffy benefits. And
Richard makes a great, very Gilmore family dramatic expression of his attitude where he says something like, I'll be spending the evening flinging myself off the roof. Like, I won't be there tomorrow. I'll be flinging myself off the roof. Relatable sentiment. Yeah. All of his lines in this sound like Lorelai lines. And I just wrote dramatic runs in the family.
Oh, yes. And they wonder where she gets it from. No self-awareness in these people. None whatsoever. Doorbell rings. It's Rory. And she's there with a cab. And Emily's like, Richard, like, pay the cab. Like, Rory's here. And he's like, oh, Rory's here. And then he's like, wait, Rory? Like, he looks up from his paper like, wait, what? Okay. It took him a minute to like process. And then he's like, also, how nice would it be to like know that you could take a cab, like a 30-minute drive from another town and know that your grandparents will just pay for it. So very expensive cab goes over and interrupts their evening, much to Richard's delight and glee.
I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to get out of there.
Out of your house.
Out of that house, that town, everything. I just had to go.
You tacked on an extra $5 just for waiting. I feel like I'm back in Prague. Do you want a cocktail?
No, thanks.
Richard?
Oh, sorry. I'm just a little confused here.
I'll say. Oh,
like, do you want a cocktail? And everybody's like, what? No. Like, what are you talking about?
I think this is super interesting. Noticing how like no one in this episode seems to know how to talk to a teenager, or like no one seems to know how to treat Rory like a teenager. So here's Richard being like, cocktail? I don't know. She's kind of grown up, but she's not. Oh, wait. And then by the end of this scene, Emily is talking about a new toothbrush that she got for Rory. It's pink with sparkles. I thought you'd like it, as if she's a tiny little girl. And I have my theory about this, about how Emily views Rory and what's going on in Emily's. But yes, let's keep going.
I don't think Richard really even realizes who he's talking to.
No.
Like, he absolutely does not know how to talk to teenagers, but most of the time he does a decent job with Rory. He just like fully forgets who's in the room. He's just like, there's a guest. Do you want a cocktail? Like just on muscle memory, has no idea. And then he's just like, oh, right. Like it's not Friday night and I didn't know who was here. And like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? And, she proceeds to say that she had a fight with her mom and could she stay here? And Emily is like glowing. She's so happy that Rory's there.
I knew that you would see it that way. I don't see it that way at all. All I saw in Emily is utmost concern. I don't see any kind of like, oh, and she's here. Maybe like a tiny, tiny hint of it. But I really like Emily's lines in this bit because she asks the question like, you wanted to get out of your house? So obviously the house and the living quarters and like the physical home is still on her mind from the previous episode of like, where is she living? Like, is she actually in danger there? And then, no, Rory clarifies like, out of my house, out of my town, blah, 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 all of that. And Emily actually asks, do you want to talk about what happened? She invites and asks, do you want to? Instead of, she doesn't immediately leap into, we're gonna talk about what happened, which would give Rory another opportunity to be defensive and be like, well, nothing, I'm not going to tell you anything. She asks like, okay, this here is your retreat, your refuge, your runaway comfortable place. That's all it can be right now. There's a lot that Emily doesn't know. And for once, she's not digging to try and find out. She's just there to be comfortable, a comfort, but she's extremely concerned, obviously, because this has never happened before.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what to do. And she clearly doesn't know how to handle teenagers who run away from home. You know, she can probably see the same. She's probably having a minor flashback. Teenagers don't run away from home for no reason, right? So she doesn't pry and ask questions and ask any digging questions. I think she's quite concerned. But obviously her hopes, I think they're her hopes of being somewhere that Rory feels like she can come to and be safe, those are coming alive. But it all comes down to her face right at the end of this scene. It's so unusual, and it's such a great performance when it's determined Rory will stay there that night. Her face is, I wrote, pleased, ? Concerned, thoughtful, cautious, curious. All of that is on her face as far as I could see. And I genius performance. I'm so impressed by this.
Yeah. So Emily's treatment of Rory when she arrives and how she handles it is wonderful. It's exactly what Rory needs in that moment. Absolutely. Like, she handles it with a lot more grace than she would have had it been Lorelai in any situation, like completely. But where Emily shifts into a different person is when she's talking to Lorelai, and we'll get there. It's her choice of words and her approach with Lorelai that bothers me about this. I can see and I feel for Emily here, where she feels like she's never had a child run to her. She's only ever had kids run away from her. And so for her to have her granddaughter feel safe, feel trust, and all of those things with her is like an emotion that she's literally never had. And the love and affection and pride and joy that she gets from Rory having come to them is so touching and incredible. It's how she handles it from the other side that I cannot stand at all. So before we get to that point, Rory, immediately after he offers them the cocktail, she's like, oh no, you guys were going out. I'm so sorry. Like, I could go. And Emily's like, nonsense. We're not going out. We're staying here. And Richard is like visibly relieved. He's so happy. He's just like sitting down with his cocktail. He's like, this is the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Come by anytime.
Exactly. And so Rory's going up to bed, and Emily, she goes, Richard, say something encouraging. And he goes, something about, have a good night, and I applaud your timing. It's like Richard is the comedic relief that we need in this episode right now. It is so good.
I think this is neat. I don't know if I've vocalized it before, but anything to do with the grandparents and Rory, it's like for both of them, they're getting a second chance at parenting, right?
Yeah.
Emily is leaping on that chance. Richard is not at all. But I like those little moments. I mean, they're awkward moments when Emily does try to bring Richard back in, like, be father again, be parent again, say something, and it feels like it must be an echo of when they were raising Lorelai. Like, Richard, have some input here. Come on. Yeah. But we already know that he was a very closed off man when Lorelai was growing up. So of course he's not going to be any better now. Of course he's not. Emily, I think, is trying, but Richard has no desire to try. No, not at all.
Meanwhile, Lorelai is at home freaking out, understandably. She has no idea where Rory went. There's no note. There's no indication. There's nothing. She's gone. And so Lorelai has been calling people. Max has come over. Suki's come over. They're like trying to figure out where she could be. Oh, Dean, maybe. Yeah, okay. So like Suki goes off to Dean's to see if he's there. And Max is trying to keep her calm. And Lorelai is on the phone with Mrs. Kim asking where Lane is, and is like, what? You don't know where Lane is? Like, this is like literally the only time ever in the history of forever that I need to know where your kid is and you don't know? Like, don't you have me? So they're having this like mom off.
Is it weird to anyone else that they didn't think to call Emily and Richard first? Like, to me, that's the obvious first. Like, why would you look for Dean before asking? Like, they would have been my first thought.
Far away. Maybe they just don't assume that she was going to hop into a cab and go there. Like, I think
not.
that the logical first was Lane, and that's who she's on the phone with, you know, and so she's trying to figure out that.
But like, if Suki's already over, then like, I don't know. I find that very, very weird that like it doesn't even cross their mind to think maybe Emily in Richard's place. It's kind of strange.
Maybe it's just because she spent her whole life like pushing her parents out of her mind that she like just doesn't even consider them because they don't even live close by. So it might not have been like a logical leap. And she's panicking. There might not be a lot of logic there.
True.
So I think she's like starting from the middle, the house, and like working her way outward. Like, okay, where else? Max is there. He's trying to be comforting. He's still just like missing the mark for me. Like he's just being like, oh, she'll be fine. You know, she's somewhere. And he's like trying to be comforting, but it doesn't feel like he's validating the fact that she's panicked at all. Like he's just trying to calm her down, but that's not what she needs in that moment. She needs somebody to be like, I understand this is scary, and like we'll work through it. The phone rings, and it's Emily calling to tell Lorelai that Rory is there. And I have so many conflicting feelings about this. So first, Lorelai asks to talk to Rory, and Emily says no. That is the first annoyance. Like, give Rory the chance to say yes or no, because maybe at this point, Rory is already feeling a bit guilty for having run away. And maybe Rory does want to, like, even just to say, I'm sorry I left, but I need some space. You know, like, give her the chance, because from this moment onward, Emily is shutting Lorelai out from Rory. And she is intentionally putting a wall there. And we hear it when she says she ran from you and came here. It's not she was upset and needed somewhere to go. Emily is weaponizing, once again, Rory against Lorelai and using it for her own personal like vendetta, like, and I told you so, like, in a haha, like, now the tables have turned. Now how does it feel, Lorelai? She left you and she came here. And no, you can't talk to her. And no, you can't come get her in the morning. I'm like, yeah, sure, it's logical. The school is right there. That makes sense. But then she says, okay, I'll come get her after. And she's like, why don't we just see if she wants to stay for a while? She is gloating, fully gloating. And she's making it seem like it's out of concern for Rory. And we don't want her to just take a cab back here. We want to make sure that she's okay. Let her make that call. Once again, Emily is saying things that Rory is going to do to hurt Lorelai. And it is infuriating.
Interesting. I disagree with that interpretation. I get it, but that's not at all how I took it. I feel like Emily was very, very necessary in this moment to say, give your daughter some space. She's safe. She does not want to talk to you. She ran away. Like the move of a teenager to leave their house and run away. The main concern is she's safe. She's somewhere. She's safe. We know where she is. Like, she'll be fed. It's okay. Like, and Lorelai even says, like, okay, I'm coming over right now. No, that's not working. And it hasn't worked when you arrived home right after your blowout and were ready to fight and be up in arms again. I can only picture that if she actually showed up at the Gilmore house later that evening, or even like on the phone, like Lorelai hasn't calmed down. Lorelai is in, you ran away from me mode. What is going on? Talk to me now. I don't think anything actually could have been helped or progressed from that. And I think Emily was really necessary here, being the like she didn't even wait. She called after only a few minutes. You know, she says, Rory's here. She arrived a few minutes ago. She needs space. She's going to sleep here. But yeah, she ran from you. It is so telling. But again, I think that's that thing is Emily is noticing this. It's like, your daughter ran away from you. I know what that feels like. She ran from you. You ran from me. This is a big thing. You needed your space and you ran off and stayed away. She needs her space. She ran off and she's going to stay here for tonight. But like Emily has no idea what the fight was about. So really, she doesn't have much to actually back her up being like, I can do this better or like blah, blah, blah. It's literally just she needs somewhere safe to run away to. She needs somewhere safe to be. Very often, yeah, things are better in the morning. I don't know if I can hear gloating. Maybe I just don't know what that sounds like. I don't think I've heard
I
people
hear it
say
in
that.
her choice of words. It's her choice of words. It's not as much in her tone. She says she ran from you and she came here. So that's saying that like she doesn't want to be with you. She wants to be with me. She's angry with you. She feels safe with me. And by also like guarding Rory and trying to say, you're not going to come here because she's going to want to stay here. Again, without letting Rory have any input in that. And so I don't think that she should have given Rory the phone. I don't think she should have let Lorelai come over. I agree that like they needed their space and they needed their distance. But what I don't like was the approach that Emily took, because she could easily have said, let me see if she wants to talk to you, gone to Rory and said, your mother is on the phone, so it's okay. She knows you're here. You don't need to worry about her not knowing where you are. Do you want to talk to her? Yes or no? You don't have to if you still don't want to. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel
And
like
the
all she
fact that
probably did
she-
was like, I'm going to call your mother and inform her that you're there. And then that's it, you know, and Rory was probably like, okay, good. You're taking care of that. I'm going to go nap.
I'm assuming that Rory doesn't know that she's telling her mom, because Rory goes straight upstairs to her room.
Oh,
As far as we know.
oh I think
like
that would
after
be kind of dumb.
I think because I think that, you know, Emily is wanting Rory to exist in her like Gilmore space.
See, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Emily wants to feel needed and useful. And now she is feeling that, but not like a she's mine, but rather I can be of use and benefit to you. You can feel comfortable and safe with me. I get a second chance at being a mother again. And I'm going to do it what I think is the right way, or like the different way, a new, better way. That's what I'm seeing here.
I'm seeing both. I'm seeing that's how she's being with Rory, and then with Lorelai, she's being the other person, because her dynamic is completely different with both of them. So she is reacting to Rory in that maternal, comforting, protective way. And then with Lorelai, it's that like, don't come over here. She ran from you. She's here with us. She made that choice. You were fighting. She didn't want to talk to you. And I think she's living for it.
I don't see that part. That's the part I don't see.
Yeah. It's that, again, I'm going to say it again, it's that she ran from you. It's not she was upset and needed space. It's the very like targeted, like the blame and the like pointed, you know, like you guys had a fight. She needed to cool off. She ran from you. And then when Lorelai says, okay, well, I'm going to come pick her up tomorrow after school, Emily just says, we'll talk about it later. Like she's being so blasé about it. She's being so like, she's being so casual about it because she knows that it's bothering Lorelai, and she's not letting anything definitive happen. She's not even saying, I will talk to Rory about what she wants to do in the morning and we'll go from there. Like she's saying, meh. She's like keeping Lorelai at arm's length on purpose to hurt Lorelai, because now Lorelai can feel what she went through.
I think she's keeping Lorelai at arm's length right now because Lorelai is frantic. Whatever plans we make over the phone right now are plans made in the heat of whatever. It's let's talk about this tomorrow. Let's make sure
but it's not just tomorrow. It's we'll talk about it after Rory gets back from school at our house, because we're not going to let her go home to you.
Well,
we're going to have her come back here. Like, because Lorelai's like, okay, well, I'm taking her home tomorrow. And she's like, well, we'll talk about it. Like, it's not even.
I don't know. I don't think she's as vicious as that. I really don't think. I don't think people are. Like, I don't feel like anyone actually does that. Because, like, I don't know, what's the point?
I mean, Emily does. Like, we've seen her being manipulative and narcissistic all through this season.
But now we're at the end of the season. Like, you think
she doesn't change.
Well, that's poor writing then.
And it's so frustrating. And it just really bugged me because it's not her daughter. She can't make those decisions on behalf of Lorelai's daughter. And
true. Of course.
And so that's what's like really bothering me, because she's making all of these decisions where she does not have the place to make the decision. She can be the home that Rory can go to. She can be the safe place, but she cannot decide when Rory is leaving or not leaving. She cannot decide if Lorelai.
Oh, no, of course. Well, this is why she's saying we're going to talk about it later. We're not going to make plans right now.
But she's also dictating when the later is. She's like, the later's not tomorrow morning. The later's going to be after school when Rory comes back here to this house,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you want that or not, because I'm not letting you access her.
I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like people aren't actually that horrible, but maybe they are. The point is that she's safe.
I don't think she intentionally knows it. I think she is being that way as a it's like, I think it's like a little bit vengeful, just like a subconsciously vengeful, because now she knows that Lorelai is feeling some of what Emily was feeling, and she can witness it. And I think she wants to draw it out.
I don't know though if she's deriving glee from that though. Like that,
Maybe not
that's what turns it into like Disney villain. You know, they're like, now you get to suffer. That's what I feel like people don't actually do.
I don't think it's glee, but I think it's satisfaction. I think that there's like a little bit of satisfaction there. That's just like, ha. She ran from you and now she's here. And now we're going to let her stay as long as she wants to. And if you want to come see her, we'll talk about it. Like, that's what I'm getting from it, because that's her being like, how the tables have turned. And I think she's getting a certain amount of satisfaction from the fact that not only is it happening in general, but it's happening with Emily being the safe space. When to Lorelai, Emily was the person she was running from. So now Emily's like, see, now what? Like, and that's what I'm getting from it. But like, to Rory on the other side, like, yeah, she's being amazing. She's giving her space. She's not praying. She's not being forceful. She's not being, the mother to Lorelai, the Lorelai era Emily. And so she's giving Rory what she needs. Absolutely. But she's using it as an opportunity to gloat, low-key gloat.
Heavy stuff, eh? Hey, this is Editing Jenny coming in to say that this is the end of part 1 of this episode. We got deep in this one, so we had to split it up. Thanks as always for joining us, and stay tuned for part 2 next week.